I am hopped up on Sudafed. Although I realized that pharmacists take their lunch break at like 1:30. So I was dropping Caleb off somewhere, and I thought, all right, dude, we're going to go to Target real quick so I can go get some like real Sudafed so I can be functional for today. And of course, we get there and they're all closed. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go to the Walgreens. No, same thing. They all take it off at the same time. So I ended up at this like Joseph's off of Newbern over by your pizza place.
Yeah.
They had the knockoff Sudafed.
You got to pay extra for that if it's blue.
And it's red. It's red. Okay. And it was like $3 for because I found out like the Sudafed that you get.
Oh, the store?
The store?
No.
It's useless apparently.
Yeah, because the freaking drug dealers ruined it for us.
It's useless. Completely useless.
The fake drug dealers, not even the real drug dealers.
But let me tell you,
real drug dealers have integrity. Those people out cooking in there out of the back of their van, they have no integrity.
Trust your local drug dealer.
Exactly.
Anyway, you want to
man's got to live by a code, Joe.
You want to get this thing started? All right. Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies. Inside Eford Studios today. Thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. It is just past 5 o'clock today. It is OG Live. It is brought to you by the Butcher's Market. We thank them. They also bring you the mailbag on Friday. Drop by their locations. Get their prepared meals. Makes it super easy with all the things that are going on. You got like the tail end of all your, you're still kind of coming out of that holiday malaise. You're trying to get back into the thick of things and you're forgetting stuff. And like, you know what? Let me just pop something in the oven. Butcher's Market can handle that.
Yes, they can. And hot dogs.
How many hot dogs do you have left?
33.
Impressive.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe we should get Brian to do a hot dog countdown because Brian's been very, very, speaking of being in the lab, being in his trailer, in his underwear, cooking up some music.
We're not doing a pregame. It's a live podcast in a prime location. Don't say we're doing a pregame. We're not.
So why are we not at Breeze Stew today, Joe?
We got shut down. Got banned by the FCC. The FCC won't let me be.
It's a shame that it
feels so empty without me.
It's a shame that it's not PNC Arena anymore. It's now Lenovo Center because we easily could have done a 2 live crew. Banned at the PNC.
Yeah, we need Uncle Luke.
I know that would be good. So yeah, we're still in pregame mode though.
We are.
We're absolutely. Whoa.
Certainly not a pregame. It's before the game, but don't call it a pregame. Definitely not a pregame. It's not.
It's not. We're going to talk to Greg Wyshynski of ESPN in a little bit, get his read on the Canes as we are now, I believe, at the midway point of the season, just over a month away from the trade deadline.
How's Greg the Hater doing? How's he holding up?
Oh, the only way to find out in this Totally Not a Pregame.
Seriously not a pregame. Don't make me say it for a full time. It's not funny anymore. Guys.
So I don't have my glasses, but can you find the tweet from the Canes that Rod Brindamore has the best record after 500 games of any coach in the history of the NHL?
I don't have that. I do not have that tweet in front of me.
You have a computer.
I know that.
You have eyes that work.
That would require me to
just go to the Canes Twitter feed.
Please, since we are doing this live. Is this the Canes PR or the official Canes account?
Official Canes account.
It's Star Wars night, by the way.
I thought of our guy when I saw this stat, and I was like, yeah, let's fire him. Hasn't won the cup. He's a total fucking loser. I don't know why they hang on to him. I am so done with people who want to fire coaches.
Oh, please. Here we go. I think there's a little bit of a difference between talking about Rod Brindamore and some
not
other
according
coaches.
to our fans. Remember, who is who? Is he Dave Doran with more whatever? And blah, 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 blah.
Here we go. And Rod, we trust. Here is the.
Give me the stat.
Rod Brindamore coached his 500th game behind the bench on Tuesday against Dallas. His 307 wins are the most by any head coach in NHL history through that milestone.
Yeah. 307 wins in 500 games is the best in the history of the game, is what you're saying to me.
Yes.
So am I reading that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's get rid of him, though. He hasn't won yet. What have they been 6 years in a row? They can't even get to the cup finals.
I mean,
Like, what a terrible coach
I mean,
he is.
I'll just use Rod's own standard. If you ain't getting
He's
in
never
the
won
cup,
anything.
what's the freaking point, right? Oh, you went to a cool little bowl game?
Nope.
That's sweet.
Nope.
You got some things to work out here.
Won your conference?
You got some things to work out
You
here.
won your conference? That's like us winning our division.
You got some things to work out
Greg's
here.
a hater, man. He wanted to. He was like, Rod would be fired in like 90% of the market. No, he would.
He absolutely would, because that's
not.
pro sports for you.
No, it's not though.
I don't know, man. 2025, you're getting off to the you understand how the sports world works, right?
I do.
Okay.
And I'm ready.
Well, okay. Well, let's stick it to that end.
Get at your boy.
Who's getting fired in the AFC NFC title games? Because this is
Got to get rid of somebody, right?
Well, it's funny. I'm not feeling 100% today. I don't know what I'm dealing with.
I got you a cold. It's fine.
You understand. I think most people understand that the man cold is the most severe cold you can ever have.
Yeah, it's worse than pregnancy.
Easily worse. The worst thing that could ever happen. Folks, I hope you guys can tell the sarcasm. Please understand that we're being
Max Reyna is the best player in the conference.
Please understand we're being sarcastic, okay?
Hunter Salas is better than Archie
because
Davis. Tar Heels, I tried.
Because the things women have to deal with. I mean, I get it. It's hard. But have you ever had a man cold?
Have you ever tried to do a podcast on a Thursday when your head hurts?
Layered up in like, because you thought you're going to be outside.
I got my long trunks on.
I got long johns on. I got the freaking long shirt on underneath this too. I even brought the CCM jacket. Do you even know?
Now you know it's official.
No, but anyway, because I felt like absolute shit earlier today and was laid up on the couch and drugged myself up, that meant that I took in a lot of ESPN time today. I was watching First Take. Dude.
They were talking about Hubert Davis and Kevin Keats, right?
No, they were not.
Rod Brendamore winning 307 games.
No.
500 starts.
It's Thursday, and they were still talking about Mark Andrews and the two drop passes, including the crucial 2-point conversion that would have tied it up with about 90 seconds to go in the divisional round. And it was Cam Newton with an amazing fit. As Robbie Kalin at CBS Sports pointed out, he looked like a cutscene from the Command and Conquer series of video games. Like, here's the guy that you're trying to take out in the Red Alert game, right? And it was Cam, it was Dan Orlovsky, and it was Stephen A. Smith. And they were having a 15 straight heated argument about whether or not Mark Andrews has to answer questions about what happened with the drop pass. And of course, Dan Orlovsky and Cam Newton. Of course, Cam being there for that was kind of ironic given what happened in Super Bowl 50.
He did talk, though.
He did talk. But both Cam and Orlovsky were just kind of like, what's he supposed to say? Well, yeah, man, it sucks. He apparently put it on Instagram today that he was gutted by the dropped balls. Mark Andrews was.
Okay.
So I was watching that, and then then Pat McAfee comes on at noon. And Michael
curse?
Of course he did.
Yeah.
And then Mike Lombardi comes on rocking his UNC stuff. And
did they finally find some gear that says UNC on it?
Yeah. He's wearing some UNC gear, and they basically yada some Carolina stuff. And then Lombardi really wanted to get some NFL takes. Because that's what he's busy. We'll get to UNC a little bit later on because we finally got Bill Belichick details. Plus, we'll tell you, since we're live today, we got to keep you here through the tease.
Tease it up.
We'll tell you when you'll be able to see the Bill Belichick debut in Chapel Hill as the schedule starts to get drips and drabs. But no, we got the NFC and the AFC title games. We got the Chiefs and the Bills. Your Bills, Joe.
Nope.
No,
my Chiefs. We're all the way around, sir.
We are
all the way around. They are my Chiefs. Repeat or bust.
This is going to be amusing because all eyes and attention will be paid to Patrick Mahomes and the kind of calls that he'll be getting in this game against the Bills in Kansas City. I was reading Mike Tanier. He's got a Substack. And he decided to go through all right, I get it. The Chiefs are going for the three-peat. Everybody's sick and tired of Patrick Mahomes. They're sick and tired of Travis Kelce. They're sick and tired of Taylor Swift. There's this whole conspiracy that they just want to make sure that Patrick Mahomes gets to another Super Bowl. So they're getting all the calls, right? You had sent me a clip from Colin Cowherd, which I'm not going to use because we get flagged all the time.
Oh, okay.
Anytime I use a Cowherd clip, we get flagged. So I want to avoid that. But you sent me this clip of Tom Brady talking about the rules.
Well, you had been asking for,
and sure enough, Tommy
delivered
delivered. Tommy delivered with where we are right now, and it's on this. What are guys supposed to do? They're trying to create turnovers. He's not wrong. What's funny is everything that Tom Brady said about the nature of football is correct, but he kind of glosses over the fact that he benefited from the rules.
Also, we got there specifically because of a Bernard Pollard hit on Tom Brady.
Yes.
The year after they had a imperfect season.
Yes.
So the rules changed. It went from you can't hit a guy in the head to you can't hit a guy below the knees.
Yeah.
So you can't hit him at all, in part because of his injury.
Yeah.
And
I don't blame the NFL at all.
Irony alert, Tom, you got hit once by a Bills linebacker. We've seen the play a million times. Congratulations. You didn't know how to strap your own helmet on and it fell off, but you were tough.
Super tough guy. So Tanier decided.
Nobody makes me bleed my own blood.
So Tanier decided to look through penalties, accumulated penalties from 2021 through 2024.
Okay.
His argument being that, quote, I cannot imagine an argument that the Chiefs received preferential treatment before that time. Okay. So, roughing the passer penalties against opponents. The Detroit Lions have 23 roughing the passer penalties against opponents. They're number 1. Atlanta Falcons 22, Steelers 21, Cleveland Browns 21, Saints 21, Titans 19, Denver Broncos 18, Bills 18, and look at that, the Chiefs with 18, the Dolphins with 17. So he writes, the fact that the Chiefs cracked the list isn't exactly a smoking gun, especially because postseason penalties are included in the number. The Chiefs have played 11 more games than any of the teams in this data set. I included postseason penalties because if a team is supposed to be getting all the calls, they should be double dog getting these all throughout the playoffs. They're not. Then he went through top 10 in pass interference penalties. The Cincinnati Bengals, 52 defensive pass interference penalties by opponents. Top with 52. You know who's not in this top set? The Chiefs. Not in there. In fact, the Chiefs have 24 defensive pass interference penalties by opponents. Then we get into defensive holding penalties by opponents. Turns out the Chiefs do top that list between 2021 and 2024. 52 defensive holding penalties by opponents. That is a clear difference, a clear jump at 52 from the next lowest or the next highest of the Minnesota Vikings at 35. But as he points out, it probably helps that you had Tyreek Hill in those situations, right? That's your guy, the cheetah, right? So he's looking at all this and pretty much pointing out that there's really nothing to it. And if anybody really wants to get on Patrick Mahomes, who did admit he sold one of those calls by flopping, well, again, that is called gamesmanship. That is something that Tom Brady has done. Again, Tom Brady is sitting here talking about all these changes and how we're all soft. That man talked to the officials more than anybody else. And never forget that there was a game between was it between the New England Patriots and the Carolina Panthers?
You're not old enough.
And Cam Newton was told you're not old enough to get that call, but Tom Brady certainly was old enough to get those calls, right? It's all in how we treat these guys differently. Yeah. So there's really nothing there, even though people want there to be something.
Yeah, I would be curious. Holding penalties called is the one they never get called for holding, which I kind of sort of refuse to believe.
Okay,
is a real thing.
Okay.
In the Super Bowl specifically.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, the Chiefs have the best defense. They have the smartest coach. They have a quarterback who can improvise and make the most plays. It's the way to beat them. You need a fluke. You need a pick six. You need a block kick. You need a kickoff return. You need a fumble. You need a freebie.
Yeah.
To beat them.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna have to score on all of your possessions, which is hard. And you're gonna have to stop them 2 times in each half where they're going in and you stop them.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's how you'll ultimately beat them. But last year, when you think about it, the 49ers played a near perfect game in the Super Bowl, controlled the game, most of the game. Money was on the table. Last 2 drives, couldn't stop them. Couldn't get the stops that they needed.
Get the stops.
Could not. And chance in the early going and Christian McCaffrey fumbles. And
that's the key right there.
You can't make mistakes. And you have to somehow capitalize on the 1 or 2 mistakes that they're going to make, and they just don't make them.
It's
They don't
interesting.
beat
It's
themselves.
interesting you bring that up because I know on Monday with Dimitri, you were talking about how, Dave Doran might be right about some things. Turnover battle, right?
Yeah.
And lost in all the sauce related to Patrick Mahomes and everything else. It's did the Houston Texans play a clean game? No, they didn't. So it's that simple. They don't
Would they
beat
give
themselves.
away 9 points in the
Yeah.
kicking game at least?
The Chiefs don't beat themselves, and that's why spinning it forward to this game against the Bills, I still don't trust that Josh Allen isn't going to have a Josh Allen moment.
It's not so much as Buffalo's offense. I have faith in Buffalo's offense. Their defense, quite frankly, is not very good.
Yeah.
It's not good enough to win the Super Bowl. It's not good enough to erase them. Quite frankly, I look at the rest of the field right now. The team playing closest to them would be Washington. And I don't think Washington has the defensive difference makers. But if they did, they would be 2 former Panthers. And I would probably fall out of my chair and just laugh hysterically at Washington getting to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, the
with
vibes.
Frankie Louvu being their best defender.
The vibes tell me Washington, honestly.
Well, the way that Jalen Hurts played and the way that the Eagles
He's not
have
at
kind of
100%.
no, he's not. He's not healthy.
No.
And I mean, these two teams have already played twice. They split.
Although they weren't at 100% either time.
No,
too.
I know, but
so
here you are. I mean, I look at it. I think Philly's defense is underrated. But I mean, think about it. Who on this planet, other than people related to the Philadelphia Eagles and their ownership, want to see the Eagles and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl again? No, not one person outside of that sphere wants that to happen.
Yeah, from Justin. So why haven't the Eagles signed Nick Foles? We've seen it before. Something tells me the big Nick energy just doesn't really get it done anymore. Just a hunch. I don't even know what Nick Foles is up to these days. Thanks to DraftKings. You can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use the promo code OG24. Use the promo code OG24. New customers who bet $5 will get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Y'all, look, touchdowns, super easy. Anytime touchdowns, all that kind of stuff. DraftKings got it. They're an official sports betting partner of the NFL. And they have all sorts of cool opt-ins, right? You can bet an NFL TD score and enter to win a share of $2 million in bonus bets.
Whoa.
All sorts of crazy stuff on the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now, right? But you know me. Touchdowns might be your move. I am a quick single game parlay kind of guy just to annoy Giglio. And right now at plus 2,800, Terry McLaurin, anytime touchdown score. Brian Robertson Jr., anytime touchdown score. Jaden Daniels, anytime touchdown score. That's plus
against
2,800 against Philly.
Against Philly in 2-degree weather where it's going to be sloppy. Yeah, great bet, Joe.
Meanwhile, 32 plus 3,200. I got $2.47 in my account right now. I might just do this for $2. Travis Kelce, anytime touchdown. Josh Allen, anytime touchdown. Isaiah Pacheco, anytime touchdown. And James Cook, anytime touchdown.
I think Kelce goes back on ice for this game, and then they use him against the Eagle, Washington in the Super Bowl.
I just put $1 down on that.
Perfect.
Gives me $33 back.
Best of luck. You just bet on like 9 touchdowns to be scored on 2 outdoor games where no one can feel their genitalia.
I mean, that was going to be us, outside the breeze through.
I got long johns on. So do you.
Seriously, not a pregame. Don't make me say it for a 4th time. It's not funny anymore. Guys.
We're going to milk that bit all day. Anyway, use the promo code OG24. And when you bet $5, you'll get $200 in bonus bets at DraftKings, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. You can get wild with it like I just did with the single game parlays, or just keep it simple with the touchdowns. Any way you want to do it, DraftKings has options for you. And we thank them for being a corporate champion.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball.
Housekeeping.
Housekeeping is brought to you by Enovana. You can check them out online at enovana.com. They're at the house this week.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean, clean with Enovana.
This week. They were there on Tuesday, Joe. They're not there every other day. Just want to let you know that. So again, check them out, enovana.com. Check out the Basketball Jones with our friend Bomani Jones coming to the Rialto next week. Next Friday is the Basketball Jones. Scott Wood's going to be hanging out with us.
Yes.
Now,
Broughton coach.
remind me again, was Scott there for Gottfried smacking Kay in the ass?
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're going
First 2 years.
We're going to revisit that. And some
Yeah.
other things too.
And we got stories.
Lavelle Moan's going to be there. He always has stories. Tyler Hansbrough, Marcus Skinner are going to be in the house. And of course, Bomani Jones. Get your tickets today at therialto.com. And if you're an OG fan subscriber, you get a discount. So go to ogtrianglemedia.com, be part of OG fans, and we'll give you that super secret code that'll get you a discount to hang out at the Rialto. Coming up on February 5th, we're going to be at Sully's out in Garner, Sully's Golf and Gather. You can come and hang out. You don't have to participate in the bays for the long drive and the closest to pin. But if you want to, $15 entry, Joe.
Yes. Come hit some balls. Why not? Come have some fun. Come hang out. Enjoy.
I'll have the 13 wood out there.
Yeah. You know, my dad's got one of those that's righty.
Oh, really?
Just in case there's some, well, he's got a 9 at least.
Okay.
I figured we bring that one out there too. See how we can do with that.
I'm with it. So again, just email us. You can email us theoggoesdigital@gmail.com, or you can email Giglio himself at giglio.joe@gmail.com if you want to enter. But again, you don't have to golf. You don't have to go hit in the bays. You can just hang out with your friends from the OG. Speaking of hanging out with friends, you know what's a good spot to go hang out with friends? Longleaf Swine. Brunch is always fantastic at Longleaf Swine. The smash burger is off the charts, but they're not there without great barbecue. So check out longleafswine.com. As Heel keeps pointing, I forgot why Dimitri said this. Dimitri, open bar at Longleaf Swine with the contract being signed. I forgot what Dimitri said would happen.
He on the mailbag where he was getting the people going.
Yeah.
He said he'll have an open bar at Longleaf Swine if Bill Belichick coaches one game.
That's right.
For Carolina.
All right. Well, as Ken pointed out in the chat, Dimitri better be ready. The Weller Foolproof ain't cheap. He's right. But Longleaf has a great bourbon selection, so go check them out, longleafswine.com. Big thanks to our friends at Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. Bugsbite.com is the website. They do a much better job than my cats at getting rid of critters in the house. Much better. I can guarantee you that because my cats are terrible at this. So contact them at bugsbite.com. Big thanks to Roback. I'm rocking the Roback today, all layered up for an outside show that never happened. But this is fantastic stuff. It's super, super comfortable. I've actually slept in this Roback.
Mm-hmm.
It's super comfortable sleeping, man, on a really, really chilly night. So go to roback.com, use that promo code OG20 to save 20% off your order. And it goes beyond the hoodies. They've got great workout shorts. They've got great workout shirts. And I recommend you buy that stuff before you head on over to O2 Fitness. O2fitnessclubs.com is the website. You've got Renew Physiotherapy, which is working on Joe's neck, doing some magic there. And more importantly, Loop Nutrition for that whole body wellness. Look, you can work out, which is great. There's all sorts of benefits to working out. And gym location's key. They got great locations, great equipment, great staff. But eating right is also key too, especially when we're coming out of the holidays. You're doing things like dry January. Don't stop at the end of the month. Keep it going by making right decisions.
Make those good choices.
Make good choices, unlike me and Joe. It's all at O2fitnessclubs.com. Again, that's O2fitnessclubs.com. All right, we've got a Bill Belichick signed contract, Joe. The Tar Heels, the university, had to put this up on their website because of, open records laws and everything else. And I feel like you really do enjoy looking over a contract. That is a kink of yours.
I do.
Anything that came out of this contract that piqued your interest?
Well, there's definitely no coach in waiting verbiage in there anywhere.
Okay.
A lot of different bonuses that I thought were interesting, like a coach of the year, including which different outlets he's allowed to get a coach of the year award bonus from.
So I'm looking at the contract right now. If you're watching on YouTube, I pulled it up on the screen. Bonuses shall be eligible. Coach shall be eligible for additional non-salary performance-based compensation as set forth below. Win 8 games, get $150,000. 9, $200. It escalates. Win 12 games, it's $350,000. Competitive performance conference championship. Coach will receive a bonus of $300,000. Let's see, what else do we have here? CFP participation. If you just go to the college football playoff, it's $750,000. Quarterfinals, it's $1 million. Let's say they win the championship, it's $1.75 million to win the championship.
Yeah, it's all pretty standard stuff. Couple of interesting things I thought. Number one, there is a GPA bonus in there. I really thought the University of North Carolina would have learned its lesson about rewarding any kind of progress rate or GPAs in
it's not a
football.
lot.
That's not a great idea.
Yeah, it's like in any year during the term, blah, 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 blah. Coach serves as head coach. Coach will receive additional compensation in the form of a bonus in the amount of $50,000 when it comes to grade point average.
But that was not a good idea by the University of North Carolina. Like, it's okay.
I forgot about APR, by the way.
Yeah, it's totally okay, dude. Like, just
we're not fooling anybody.
You can brag about it online or wherever else, but you really should not legally write into a document that at a school that had no classes, you're rewarding a GPA for the football team for a coach who's not even going to be there. But the two things that I thought were interesting there were it's enumerated in this contract that he can hire a general manager, which is interesting. The other thing in there was more along the lines of his expenses.
Yeah,
I kind of threw up a little bit at the expenses.
So here's the expense. Each contract year during the term, coach will receive an annual expense allowance of $100,000 to be used for entertainment and other appropriate purposes to advance the program. We also have relocation and moving expenses of $100,000.
Just to be clear, they're going to pay him a base salary of $1 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
After each month that he's here, he gets a prorated amount that will equal $9 million for his supplemental income for the year.
Okay.
So if he's here for 12 full months, he gets $10 million to coach.
Yeah.
That's not enough to buy an apartment or a house.
No.
So he
has a vehicle allowance of up to $7,500.
Yes.
Or a leased vehicle.
Which also is all that covers the insurance, the repairs. So it's like, I get it. This is all standard stuff.
Chapel Hill Country Club membership.
The country club. Yeah.
Tickets.
Lots of tickets. Again, standard stuff. But it's like, okay, you're going to pay him $100,000 to move. I got news for you. He's not moving whatever his family home is in New England or Florida.
Yeah.
Not doing that. So, okay. And then you're going to give him $100,000 in annual expenses on top of all this other money that he's already getting. Oof.
I'm sorry. Again, contracts. I almost feel like we should contact our friends at Whitaker and Hamer. Automatic termination upon death or disability of coach. Yeah, I guess if you die,
you'd be surprised.
Again, these are things I don't think about.
Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah. Well, but you're not a lawyer, but you also haven't followed the evolution of these contracts.
I have not.
You know what I mean?
I have not.
A lot of this stuff,
it's like it terminates if the coach dies. I mean, that seems pretty
obvious. But you would think. I'm telling you. I
don't know why I find that funny. Termination by university for cause. That seems pretty standard. Where was it? I have to scroll back, but they had like the tiers of bowls in there and the bonuses that get doled out for certain bowls and what is considered a top tier elite bowl game. So here it is. Belichick will receive $350,000 for non-CFP tier 1 elite bowl games. Shall be defined as the Pop-Tarts Bowl, the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl, and the Duke's Mayo Bowl. We already knew that the Pop-Tarts Bowl was elite. Now it's in contract writing, Joe. It's in contract writing.
Good work by his agent.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Now, I had some Carolina fans throw this at me via email or through social media about, see, he signed the contract. It ends speculation. It doesn't. It just doesn't. Because I already saw it with some NFL insiders related to the contract doesn't really do anything to address what happens to his buyout after June 1st of this year. People keep pointing to that buyout after June 1st of this year, that it drops down to $1 million. To be fair, I think that's more of an NFL insider thing that's trying to stick it to Bill Belichick or just kind of needle Bill Belichick. For instance, Mike Florio of ProFootballTalk.com seems to be the most agitated by Bill Belichick right now. And Belichick had kind of subtweeted Mike Lombardi, who was on the McAfee show today. And I'm paraphrasing here, but Florio's whole point was, for a couple of guys who are supposedly disgusted with the NFL, they do spend a lot of time talking about the NFL. You sent me a clip of the Let's Go podcast where it was Brady, Belichick, and Jim Gray, right?
The entertainment value of that.
That's a nightmare blunt rotation, if you ask me. So that's where we're at. Now, we also know where Bill Belichick will be on August 30th.
Oh,
we're getting the drips and drabs of the ACC football.
drum roll. Pay off that tease.
I know this is going to come as a surprise to you, but North Carolina, TCU, 7:30 ESPN.
Prime time.
Prime time, baby, on Labor Day, as we all suspected. Does game day show up?
For week 1? Who else is playing?
Oh, there's all sorts of games that are taking place. Some really good matchups in the ACC too. I don't
do
have
you
it in
roll
front
the
of me.
dice and wait for them to be like 3-0 or 4-0, or do you
No.
you get it
I
out?
think you just get it out of the
gate?
way. I think you just get it out of the way. That's what I would do.
Oh, and you bring
McAfee's coming.
and I hope they bring Saban here, and we get. I'll take that. I'll take the 10-minute interview because I love it when those two get together.
Are we going to camp out?
It's the only time they're honest with each other or anyone else.
That's a good point. Are we going to camp out though? Because I also saw there was something in the contract about media obligations. There was like reasonable requests and things like that.
I was looking in there because part of that, part of that compensation is tied to your media obligations, radio show, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I did not see anything enumerated for something like that.
Well, typically those media obligations are tied into your salary,
right.
Like for
Learfield or
Learfield will kick in X amount of money for you to do that coach's show, like Hubert Davis, Roy Williams, Kevin Keats, Dave Doran. They all get money kicked into their contract by their broadcast partners to do these coaches shows and TV shows.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I didn't see any of that in the contract.
No, there's not in there.
I wonder if there's like a conflict of interest for like McAfee and
there
stuff
were
like
some
that.
there were some things in there about having your outside income needed to be approved. I don't know if you know this, but Belichick does a commercial for a gambling site. I can't remember which one it is. It's not ours, so I don't really care.
Yeah.
But I was curious about that. Like, is that something he'll have to give up? I suspect yes.
From James, who is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to these things. Game day has only had one Labor Day game day, 2006. Again, Bill Belichick being the head coach at North Carolina.
That's pretty unique.
That's pretty unique. And he's got a relationship with McAfee, who is the star of game day. So I could see them doing that again. Just throwing that out there. And it's not like there aren't a bunch of games happening on Labor Day, including Miami and Florida State. So if I saw the schedule correctly. So that's where things are right now. And the contract, like you said, nothing in there that would raise any sort of eyebrows. Although you did tell me that you were curious to see what Stephen Belichick's contract would look like.
Yeah, that's where you technically would see that there's some sort of. I don't know. I doubt it at this point.
Yeah, no. I mean, I doubt it. I mean, heck, didn't Bubba tell you that?
No, he said it wouldn't be in Bill's contract. You got to remember, you don't always ask the right questions.
That's a very good way of putting it. That's a very yes.
He didn't avoid the answer. I just didn't ask the right question.
You know what? And that's why Bubba's very good at his job. He knows how to answer those questions. So
correct.
Good on Bubba. So we'll see Steven's contract though once he signs it.
We will eventually get his contract. Yes.
Open records requests and everything else. Now, speaking of the Tar Heels, we've got all this football stuff. We're getting drips and drops of the schedule coming out, but we got hoops. I was going over Ken Pom and seeing the just absolute dumpster fire that is the ACC. Did you know the ACC has 7 teams with double-digit losses so far in the season? That's pretty atrocious.
I am ready to declare Miami the worst team in ACC history.
Oof.
Because I've never seen a team openly quit and revolt on the program before.
Yeah.
But given that the coach quit after 12 games,
Yeah.
they are playing at an embarrassingly low level.
I have checked out of Virginia, so I don't even know where they're technically at right now.
Yeah, but
it wasn't the same situation.
No. And you're right. Their coach also stood them up at the altar
Mm-hmm.
with Julia Roberts and Running Away and all those other things, I think was a movie. Yeah.
Yeah, Runaway Bride.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was if I remember correctly. So the ACC has 7 teams with double-digit losses. Do you know how many the SEC has?
1.
0. Do you know how many the Big Ten has?
1.
0. Do you know how many the Big 12 has?
Try
it again. Hey, there we go. The Big East has 4. Big East is having a little bit.
The Big East is about to like power up, though, man. I'm just telling you, based on these conversations that I've had with the coaches that I know,
Yeah.
the Big East this offseason will be like, if you need a job, everyone's going to want to go to the Big East.
Why is that?
The house settlement money, when you don't have a football program,
Goes all there.
you could be talking about a budget of like 12, 13, 14 million dollars.
That's
for these schools.
So what you're telling me is that Rick Pitino's not going anywhere?
Where I think Rick's going to the Final Four. I think
mean,
that's going to happen.
Right now, St. John's is sitting atop the Big East. So
They're playing a very specific style of basketball. I watched them last night. Again, Sean should be fired. Xavier should fire Sean. I mean, they had a double-digit lead. They had a chance down the stretch. They called plays. The shots didn't go in. They should fire their coach. They should get rid of him.
wow. Okay, here we go.
He didn't have a national title, so you just get rid of him.
Yeah, here we go.
That's the only thing to play for.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
Chris
is
Beard, you're our best friend. Chris
my
Beard
guy.
blew a double-digit lead last night. Chris Beard, one of the best defensive coaches in all college basketball.
Mhm.
Roy Williams once went down to Lubbock to see him and talk to him about coaching. For real, did. They should fire him. They blew a double-digit lead against Mississippi State last night. Man, it was embarrassing. They threw the ball away, a bunch of turnovers. They had a lot of things where I was like, man. I mean, hey, man. I think they should just let Rick Pitino coach 170 of the teams and then just have Nate Oates coach the other 180 teams, since they're the only two who can coach. I know Nate Oates has never won a national championship,
Yeah.
but it's a different standard for Nate Oates than everyone else.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I think that's what they should really, or you know what? Just let Pitino coach them all. Let him coach them all. I would like that. I think that's what we should do, because there's only one person who can actually coach at this point. So
Big thanks to our friends at Keller Williams, the Donnelly team. TriangleNCCommercial.com. Give them a call directly at
well, they could
919.
coach all the teams. They could find office space for all of the college basketball
You talk
teams.
about standards. They have a standard.
Yes.
The standard is the standard. And that's making sure that you find the commercial real estate needs met. And that's at TriangleNCCommercial.com. Anytime we talk about the ACC, it's brought to you by
Brian and Julie,
the Donnelly team. So again, give them a call 919-616-8661. All right, are you done being a sarcastic asshole here? Like what's going
I
on?
want every coach ever
What's going
fired.
on?
I want every coach ever fired. Ever. Just get rid of them all.
What's happening?
We should do AI. Let's do AI. Should we do that?
Dude, you joke.
AI coaches?
No, you joke, but I'm actually convinced that AI could do the job of some ADs.
Maybe let Belichick coach every basketball team too. Can we give him some basketball teams? Coach them up. Yeah, man.
Is this about conversations regarding Hubert and Kevin Keats?
Yes. I'm exhausted from it. So fine. I'm done being exhausted. I'm done being exhausted by the amnesia of both fan bases. And now I'm just going to embrace it. I think you should actually fire and hire a new coach every week, every game. Because if you don't win a national championship every year, well, then what are we doing?
That's your takeaway.
Nothing matters anymore.
That's your takeaway.
That's the only thing that matters through any of this.
That's your takeaway for what's going on in Chapel Hill and what's going on in Raleigh. That's your takeaway?
Yes. It's the coach. It's all the coach.
Okay.
Always going to be the coach.
Coach puts the rosters together, right?
Part of
Who's responsible for the rosters not working?
Big part of the reason. Coaches, big part of the reason for the roster construction. Absolutely. NIL is the other big part of that too.
Sure.
I just think the whole thing has changed so dramatically.
But
And
what's that?
I think we
What's that
all-
got to do with Carolina?
Carolina?
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying they need to adjust their expectation for what college basketball is,
Why?
because it's the whole thing has changed.
It hasn't changed at Duke.
Sure, it
It
has.
hasn't changed at Kansas.
Sure, it has.
No, it hasn't.
Yeah, it has.
No, it hasn't.
Have they won the national championship every year?
You keep going back to this really base knuckle tracky they haven't won the national championship.
Right.
You're telling me that basically being on the bubble for the last 4 years outside of last year is something that Carolina fans should be like cool with? Is that what you're telling me?
No.
They're not playing at a high level. I don't know why this is like a hard process.
I'm saying to you,
hard to process.
I'm saying to you, college basketball has been reset.
Yeah.
I don't understand why fans can't see that college basketball has been reset.
Fans do see it.
I don't think they do.
No, they have seen
Not in
it.
our area. I don't see it.
What are you talking about?
Do you not listen to our own program and the phone calls that we get?
What are you listening to?
All of these people, I don't even think that we had a Carolina fan. I think it was. They could be a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Possible.
Say it wasn't worth beating K. These last years they would trade those 2 wins over K because they haven't made they potentially will miss the tournament twice in 3 years. That is like the single
what that person was saying is,
brain
hey
rot
man,
problem I've ever heard of.
no, that was an NC State fan who talked about
there was
I'll
a
trade
different
the ACC.
No, that was a different call.
There was that's brain rot.
That
I
was a
think
different call.
What that caller I interpreted as, hey man, Hubert, appreciate you. That's great, but maybe it's time to move on. I don't know.
This is why I go back and listen to the program.
I don't see the point. It's funny. I was going to bring this up in Hey Joe, but I'll just go ahead and read it now because this came from a YouTube comment from Omar. Can't believe Giglio wants UNC fans to just get used to all this. Shaking my head.
You don't have to get used to it. You have to understand that UConn needs to lose and lose in a big way. I understand that.
Yeah.
Actually, the first year of the NIL era, they lost in the first round to New Mexico State.
Right. You know, it's funny. It's interesting you bring up. It's interesting you bring up UConn because I actually think Hurley and UConn are in a weird kind of what are you now, right? Because Hurley went from
they recruited Cooper Flag.
No,
so if you're UConn, you have to look at it this way. What the fuck do I have to do to get Cooper Flag?
Yeah.
That I'm winning back-to-back titles and I still can't get the #1 recruit in the country from one state away.
Because UConn doesn't have the same brand as Duke. It's as simple as that, which is weird to me that Danny Hurley would be obsessed over that kind of stuff because they've won these championships not by doing.
With an ECU transfer.
Okay? Like this is like
and a Loyola Maryland transfer.
Jay Wright went through this.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Gary Williams went through this.
Yeah.
You get to a certain status, you win by playing a particular way that opens doors theoretically, and then you get away from what you know, and then you're miserable.
Yep.
Jay Wright went through this and was open about the fact that he was miserable, that we entered into the rooms we weren't able to get in before, and I hated it. And then Gary got away from his like typical nitty-gritty Maryland guy.
Venezuelans.
Right? And then he freaking hated it.
Let me go get Nick Kaner medley.
So Hurley, I think, is fascinating because you go from, nobody believes in us. Nobody's buying UConn as a blue blood, yada, yada, yada. I win back-to-back championships, and he still can't get that respect.
I'm the best coach in the fucking country.
He says that to the officials. Now, apparently, he did not back down from that.
No, nor should he.
So this is what he had to say about, if you missed the context here, earlier in the week, there was a game where he was berating official. And with his
wanted a call, didn't get a call.
The official turns his back to him. Hurley loses it some more, saying, "Don't you turn your back to me. I'm the best fucking coach in the country." And Hurley, in his classic charming Hurley way, is like, "Oh, did I really say that?"
I think TV got you saying something like, "Don't turn your back on me. I'm the best coach."
Did I say that? No. Yeah. I mean, I know we I'm going to sound like an asshole here. So the TV likes me, camera. I bet you I'm going to have the GAs. I'll release it to the media too. What was the game on today? It was on FS1. I just wish they'd put the camera on the other coach more. Obviously I had a moment with Coach Dad Mata today because he was so far out of the box that I figure I would just go over and have a powwow with him and Pat, But like, I just wish they would show these other coaches losing their minds at the officials in other Big East games that I'm coaching, where I look going into a timeout when I'm not talking to officials. I see the other coaches as demonstrative as I am. But, the camera, obviously, I've created this for myself. I'm not no victim. But I just wish that they would not have the camera on me 90% of the time, unless they feel like it's driving ratings, and more assholes on Twitter that could put clips of me from a game and say, yeah, look how big of a monster he is. He's yelling at a ref again. What a monster.
That, by the way, that's a subtle shot at Jeff Goodman of Field of 68, who said that he was disgusted by Hurley's displays with the officials. And apparently Goodman is not really on speaking terms with Danny because of how he's called him out for his actions on this kind of stuff. But it's interesting too, though, because Hurley says it himself. I've created this monster, but then he wants you to not pay attention to it. He recognizes and has the self-awareness that he is being over the top, but then he doesn't want TV to cover it. That does not make sense.
Yeah, he's frustrated with this team.
Of course he is. Team. Not only do I think he's frustrated with his team.
I think last year he knew what he had, and that was a monster.
Yes.
Right. And I think this team, he's trying to figure some more things out, and he's frustrated with the whole process.
Not only do I think he's frustrated, I also think that Hurley has to find whatever the next evolution is. He might be the best effing coach that's going on right now, but the great coaches find the next evolution of who you're going to be. And this whole business of like, I'm this underdog, I'm fighting the man, like all that kind of stuff goes away when we recognize, dude, you've done something that not a lot of programs have been able to do, or head coaches have been able to do.
Mike Krzyzewski, Billy Donovan, John Wooden.
Okay, so, and I get what he's saying before the chat gets overblown with, well, Mike Krzyzewski used to berate officials and things like that. He did, and then he evolved.
And then he changed.
And evolved.
I saw one of those soft piano fire in the background.
Oh, Ronaldo thing?
Interviews with Danny Hurley, and he had mentioned that his wife, trust me, I know Danny Hurley, okay? Like we share many of the same traits. I get that.
Yeah.
And it was his wife who had said to him, listen, you don't see it. You don't see it.
Yeah.
You don't hear it. If I could give you $1 for every time my wife and my mom have said to me, you don't hear it when you say these things that you say. You don't hear it.
You don't want to include me in that?
Yeah, well, you came up with the full Giglio. That's essentially what they were saying.
Yes, I just gave it a term.
You just gave it a term.
You appreciate a nickname or a term for something.
I think I watched that interview and I go, okay, but for real, for people who don't know, his dad, Bob Sr., is a true Bob Knight type.
Oh, yeah.
Authoritarian tyrant, and it wasn't easy for Danny to be Danny. Because his brother was the prodigy, was the player, and Danny went through a lot of stuff, and it's refreshing to see him kind of come through the other side of that. Getting back to is Patino the only coach in the country? I for some reason on my socials there was a Bob Knight clip from one of his tirades.
Okay,
behind the closed doors. Recorded tirades of him screaming at his Indiana players.
Yeah.
And all I could think about was there's just no way this would play in 2025. No. And I think that's my frustration with the two fan bases that we deal with the most right now. It's like, I think they have an idea of like what real coaching is, right? Like coaching is screaming at your players, and coaching is, play four corners. Coaching is, the demonstrative timeouts. Coaching is subbing out all 5 guys. Coaching is like, this is a show, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's from Dean Smith. That's from Jim Valvano. That's from Mike Krzyzewski. We have been spoiled in this area for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that coaching still works in 2025 with this generation of players, how they've been brought up. It's a different way to communicate with them. There's a different way to get through to them.
Yeah, Joe, you're overthinking this. You're overthinking, especially with State. They just suck, dude. I really don't know how else to put it.
State doesn't have a lot of talent.
No,
State does not have a lot of talent.
They just suck. I mean, it is what it is. Sometimes you suck.
Well, no, I don't think they suck. They're right there in the middle. That's where I think, because they're not good. They're not bad. They're just right there in the middle.
Okay, maybe suck is too hard.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens if they lose to SMU.
Not when they might lose to SMU. Not with Boston College in Miami. Like Miami has openly quit on the season.
That's a different
Right.
topic.
Right.
That is a different topic. And it's not like, let me put it this way. They're not going through a Boston College. We're going to lose every single game.
It was the meals.
And then Clifford, the big red center, says, my favorite part of the year was the meals.
The pregame.
You know what doesn't suck? Home field.
I'm not overthinking it, by the way. That is how we make our living, is thinking about these things. And when I listen to our programs and I hear these calls, it has me thinking about, well, okay, how do I get into that mindset? Why are fans thinking the way that they're thinking? So that's not overthinking it.
Okay, two things, since you're belaboring the point here. The sports phone is exactly for that to begin with. Curse or don't.
Correct.
It is there for you to bitch and complain and curse. So now you're getting mad at the listeners for using the sports phone for its intended purposes.
I'm trying
one.
to understand.
And I don't know
listeners.
what you're having a hard time understanding here. NC State was one step away from moving on from Kevin Keats. One step away. Tuesday at the ACC tournament. There was really no reason to bring him back. None. They go on a run. You thank them for the run. They put it all together. Nobody's ever going to forget that. And it's right back to where it was before that. Not much changed. And you're basically asking fans to just, hey, man, suck it up. Sorry, dude, it don't work that way. You want to understand how fans work? You know what fans hate? You know what fans fucking hate?
I didn't tell them to suck it up.
No. You're telling them to suck it up. I'll translate it for you.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying,
telling, hey, man.
Why can't there be an appreciation for what actually happened for
They do appreciate
last
it.
spring?
They do appreciate it, but that still doesn't mean you can't move on.
Okay.
Hey, man, thanks for the memories. That was one great freaking night, and the cigarette was amazing. That was the greatest sex of my life. But we ain't compatible, man. Like, that's not hard to understand.
Yeah.
The hell's gotten into you? Put some home field on. Chill. The sweatpants. I almost thought about wearing them today.
No, you're not allowed to.
I know, because I was so comfortable doing the show from the home office yesterday.
That was
in
a
the
good one.
sweatpants. I was so comfortable. I'm going to have to start doing that. So go to homefieldapparel.com. Man, speaking of trauma dumps, we had a trauma dump right here in the middle of the home field.
Do they have Pirates gear?
Yeah.
They do, right?
Yes.
Oh, we got to get some of that.
Not Pittsburgh Pirates.
Oh,
gear.
not Pittsburgh Pirates?
No, not 30 years of season tickets. Sorry about that. No, go to homefieldapparel.com. Use that promo code OG24. You can save 15% off your order. Sometimes, I don't know, man. Joe's in his feels. He's down bad. Do I just need to give you a pint of ice cream? Cheer you up a little bit? Something NC State has not participated in, by the way.
I'm not down bad, sir. I'm contemplating life's bigger questions.
Well, you can contemplate how Jared manages to do some of these flavors. That feels like much better use.
Prosecco celebration cake.
I still don't understand how that works, but I'm into it. Two Roosters, tworoosters.com is the website. Secret Pie of the Month Club. It's not just for Joe Giglio. If you're going to the Canes game tonight.
Oh, it is. I thought it was just me.
No, if you are going to the Canes game tonight, may I remind you that there are such things like the Slavin Sunday.
Certainly not a pregame. It's the bowl game, but don't call it a pregame. Definitely not a pregame. It's not.
It's not. But what is delicious is Two Roosters. So go check them out, tworoosters.com. Big thanks to our friends at Whitaker and Hamer, attorneys and counselors at law. WH.lawyer is the website that can help you parse through Bill Belichick's contract as well. And of course, our friends at Hometown Realty. MyHTR.com is the website. Buy, sell, calculate, which is always key and important. A lot of new construction going up. They know the builders, they know the incentives, and they can help you find your next home. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline from ESPN, he is Greg Wyshynski. Appropriately enough, on Star Wars night, Greg. I love that we're chatting on a Star Wars night.
Yes, may the force be with you. I was just reminiscing about Star Wars. I was doing Stick to Soup, the podcast that me and Ryan Lambert and Sean Gentili do on the Puck Soup Patreon. And I was reminiscing about Star Wars because of the recent passing of David Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
And many people don't know, but George Lucas had handpicked David Lynch to be the director of what was then known as Revenge of the Jedi,
Mm-hmm.
then changed to Return of the Jedi because Jedis do not take revenge. Also because it was Revenge of Khan, not Wrath of Khan at that point, so they didn't want to compete with the Star Trek movie. But point being is I did some research and found out that David Lynch, many people think that David Lynch didn't do Return of the Jedi because he did Dune back in the 1980s. And that's part of the issue. Like he had more of a connection with Dune than he did with Star Wars. But the reason one of the producers of the Star Wars films finally admitted was that David Lynch did not want John Williams to do the score of his Star Wars movie. And he did not want Ben Burt, I think was his name.
Yeah, Ben Burt, the
Ben Burt, yeah, who did the entire soundscape. Like Ben Burt is responsible for the noise the lightsaber makes, the noise the TIE fighters make. He didn't want him to do the sound design. So two of the most important people in the history of Star Wars, David Lynch said, "Not my guys," and was going to just like expunge them, and that's why it never happened.
The man who gave us the coolest sounding thing out of the prequels, the seismic charges, you didn't want that guy. All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Brent Burns is Chewbacca on the shirt. They got Chewbacca playing, and they got Brent Burns playing on the shirt. That I would say that tracks. Although something tells me that Chewie has a little bit more longevity than Brent Burns does, and I think that's kind of where we're at. With the Carolina Hurricanes, right? They're a little bit older. They made some changes this past, this offseason. We're at the midway point of the year now, and the Canes are statistically good. They're in the hunt. I mean, I argued all offseason, they're going to be a playoff team. It's just a matter of how good the goaltending can be. So what's your assessment so far of the Carolina Hurricanes coming out of this, what was positioned as a real serious cup window, to making some necessary changes because of the cap and everything else? And here they are in the thick of it in the Metro.
So the further changes is what's intrigued me. Like they're obviously a good team, but I feel like we've had this conversation about them year after year, which is that they're good enough to get to the playoffs. They're good enough to be analytically the best team at 5-on-5. If their goaltending is healthy, it's quite good. If they're doing a lot of work.
Yeah.
And obviously for most of the season, Natchez has sort of leveled up to being a star player, although his goal scoring has considerably dried up in the last 20 games. What intrigues me is all the talk about like them being in the JT Miller thing, which may or may not be true. I'm trying to figure out whether this Carolina's involved and New Jersey's involved, and JT Miller is the Vancouver Canucks trying to gin up some competition for a guy that has a full no move clause and only wants to play for the Rangers. I don't know if that's the case or not, but my Spidey sense is tingling a little bit.
Well, good thing for JT Miller is that there's a lot of Rangers fans here, so
right.
They'll show up in the playoffs like we've seen at Lenovo Center.
So the question is whether or not a guy like JT Miller is the direction they should be going. You could say that he's the essential ingredient they've been missing, a snarly, pain in the keister type of player who could put up 100 points in a season. I mean, they went and got Gensel last year. This is not Gensel. Like this is a different comportment of a player than a Jake Gensel. And maybe that's more speaking to the Canes' overall DNA and what they would need. But do they need a guy of that age with that contract? And so that becomes the interesting question is, we know the window is open. We know that the opportunity is there to once again, push as far as you can into the playoffs, maybe to the conference final, and see, hopefully things break your way for once.
Mm-hmm.
What would it take to get there? And is it worth investing in and giving up the treasure and cap space necessary to acquire an older player to do that? Or is this more of a situation where you've pushed as far as you can with this group, and maybe the moves that need to be made are more thinking about step back, step forward, considering what's in the pipeline?
So it's interesting you bring that up, because one thing that Giglio and I, and to a certain extent when Luke Takaka, the News and Observer, drops through on the podcast, they got this core group. Everything was about making sure that the core group stayed intact. They doubled down on Freddie and Pyotr Kochetkov. And when Kochetkov's not putting dudes in the boards behind the goal against Dallas, which is fantastic, and I love that, we also know there's a level of inconsistency there. So you have to ask this question. It's like, is Kochetkov the guy? Can he be the guy? So far, he's been too inconsistent to say yes. In case of Freddie Anderson, I think we kind of got our answer last year after the long layoff with the medical issue. He came back. He was refreshed. They worked him back into it, and Rod stuck with him. But obviously, he just was not enough. And then there's the matter of guys like Andrei Svechnikov, right? Which I'd like to see more out of him, given the contract and the way he's positioned. But we don't know if he's capable of giving you more right now. So of that core group, I mean, for instance, what is Andrei Svechnikov at this point? I say Andrei Svechnikov is ... What does Wyshynski say?
Is the guy you're hoping could eventually become the player who scores that one goal you need in a tie game in a conference final? And I feel like we've had that conversation about him for multiple seasons of him hopefully becoming that guy, but not being that guy. And so that's frustrating. You know, it's frustrating that he's not that guy. It's frustrating that Kakimami doesn't give you, more overall in his game. Like there's a certain frustration with a number of the supporting cast players, I think, that you feel like should be the factors that push the Canes from contention to a championship, and some of them haven't actualized, and that's why they're left, on occasion looking outside the organization for solutions, like they did with Gensel last year at the trade deadline.
Yeah, which then gets to Rod Brind'Amour as the head coach and what exactly he wants to do. Gensel was brought in as a guy to be the one who gets you those goals, right?
Yeah.
But you always hear, well, it takes a little bit of time to get used to what Rod wants you to do and everything else, right? They generate a lot of shots, but that doesn't mean that those are good shots. As somebody who is now the manager for his son's youth hockey team, and I'm spending a lot of freaking time at youth hockey rinks. Yeah, I mean, cool. I mean, the stat dads can chart a chart chart a shot, if you will, but that doesn't mean it's a good shot, right? So I kind of, it's one of those difficult conversations, and we had this conversation last year about Brind'Amour, the system. And while it's great in the regular season, is there something missing there when we get to the postseason? Does it snuff out creativity? Does it allow for the dudes to go be the dudes? What's your read on that?
Well, I think your read is an accurate one in the sense that, this is a team that in the postseason plays to the margins. They want to play a 1-goal game. They're not looking to overwhelm you with offense. They're looking to control play like they often do, getting the majority of the shot attempts, but by no means is it like go, go, go.
Yeah.
And when you look at the way that teams like Florida and teams like Edmonton, Colorado, and other teams play, there is more of that wave of offense, you've got to stop us kind of mentality. And that's just not how Rod coaches. Now, the way Rod coaches has been incredibly successful and has certainly gotten this team in the playoffs and has gotten this team quite far in the playoffs at where a break or two goes their way. They would have played for a cup by now, but they haven't. And so I think it's a legitimate concern. I think it's a legitimate criticism about the way this team is coached, but it's really, and I say this from personal experience as someone who has criticized Rod in the past for maybe getting more praise than he deserves. It's very hard to criticize the guy when he has the results he's gotten with the rosters that he's had.
Yeah, I am with you on that as well. It's a very delicate balance in how you talk about these things. But if you ask Rod himself, there's only one real goal. It's great to win a division. It's great to get to the conference finals if you can get to that point. I mean, he wants to put his name back on the cup. There are guys that want to get their names back on the cup. That's the ultimate goal, right? So I guess the next question would be, in relation to the Carolina Hurricanes, if they seem set in net, right? Because I think my argument with the injuries to both Freddie and then I know Kochetkov had a concussion, just muddle through it the best you can, wait for them to get healthy and see where you go from that. The Miller stuff, I think you're right. I think that kind of gets into some fantasy NFL talk and you make the numbers all add up. What is a more reasonable acquisition for the Carolina Hurricanes in just over a month for the trade deadline?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think the problem with the trade deadline right now is you do have some players that could shake available from certain teams, but that's contingent on them feeling like they're out of it.
Yeah.
And right now nobody is, especially in the East. And then the other thing too is that if you're looking at expiring contracts, I mean, there's not a ton of help up front necessarily in this class. If you need a defensive defenseman, congratulations. There's a lot of them. But impactful players like on a Gensel level up front are sort of few and far between. I mean, you could look at Pittsburgh again.
Mhm.
Ricard Raquel's one that I think is top of mind as far as offensive players that could certainly help. And then, if Seattle starts to get kind of into the sell mode, then you're talking about your Jordan Eberle's and Jaden Schwartz's and players of that nature. So there are players out there that could help from a veteran nature. But are any of those guys going to necessarily move the needle for the Canes? I don't know. And if we are in a situation where there's many, many, many more buyers and sellers, and there could be, then what does the cost of acquisition look like for those players?
Do you think, to your point about how things kind of change over time, it's not like the Canes have a lot of cap space to work with. And there is some goalie availability that is concerning. Again, that's a Freddie Anderson question. Is getting a goalie at the deadline out of the question for the Canes, you think?
I mean, getting a goalie is not out of the question. Getting a good one is the real challenge, right? I mean,
exactly.
You look around this league right now and how many teams have tandems that they don't necessarily want to break up, or what it would cost you in cap space and player acquisition cost to get a good goalie. I mean, look at Anaheim. Like John Gibson, who's been on the trade block for most of my adult life, is actually having a really good season. Like he's making the case that you would want to acquire this person. He's playing really well behind a very porous defensive team in Anaheim. But he has a term on his contract, a cap hit that still scares people away, might have some trade protection, and they've been very adamant about what they're looking to get back for him. But I mean, that's the type of player that could be available given where Anaheim is. I mean, San Jose, with Georgiev and Vanacek could be another place where you check in. But how many of these places are upgrades or what you already have? Not many of them. But there are goalies that will be available if the Hurricanes were like, we need some insurance in case Freddie pulls another injury situation and he's not available for us anymore.
You mentioned Kotkaniemi, and that is a source of much debate online with Canes fans. What we got 2 goals in the last, or 3 goals in the last 2 games, I think it was. So everybody's like, see, there it is. But then he kind of disappears for a while, and then people look at the contract and everything else. Is that a movable contract? It was just over $4 million, I think it is. Is that something where they see his production with the Carolina Hurricanes, and that was always the bet with Kotkaniemi? I have not seen it pay off necessarily, even though people keep saying, "Oh, just wait. He's really, really young. You're going to regret it." I mean, I can see him moving though.
Sure, and it's a movable contract. You just, whatever deal materializes. I was just checking out his numbers. 7 points overall in the last 15 games for him, including 4 goals. So not too bad. I think whatever that manifests as far as a trade goes would probably be within a package for somebody. I don't think that there's really a market for him in a 1-for-1 situation. But if you are acquiring a forward and someone else is like, hey, we need someone to replace this forward in our lineup, his contract, his play overall, I think would be one that you could see moving in a package deal.
So I'm on ESPN Plus right now, and I feel like you're speaking North Carolina's. I feel like you're speaking North Carolina's language when you're talking about bubble watch when it comes to the NHL. You say North Carolina bubble watch, I think it's a lot of Tar Heel fans that are freaking out right now. But you've got the Canes decidedly in the playoffs right now. The one interesting thing about this, and as you highlight here, specifically to Eric Tulsky, the general manager, quote, his crew have in mind, what do they have in mind to make them elite as the March 7th trade deadline nears? My curiosity would be, when all these NHL people talk, right? And Tulsky was a coveted person from the analytics side, and he gets elevated to general manager, and he does some pretty impressive moves this offseason. He makes that Seth Jarvis contract work in a way that only Tulsky could probably think about it in his analytical brain, right? Make it all work on the spreadsheet. But what is it? There's almost like an art to work in the phones in the NHL, connections and things like that. What is, in talking with the Canes, the move from a Don Waddell era general manager, work the phone type of thing and his connections, versus a Tulsky version of working the phones? Anything to that?
I'm fascinated by it, to be honest with you. One, because I think he's significantly smarter than 3/4 of the league as far as like who's running these teams.
Yeah.
2, he's not somebody who played in the NHL. which is also an interesting dynamic when you're talking to like Chris Drury, or someone like that.
Right.
And he's also not significantly old, which is also a characteristic of many of these general managers. I have a hard time envisioning an Eric Tolsky hang with, Kelly McCrimmon or whatever, I have a hard time conceiving it. That being said, I think he's also someone who is blessed with a gift for explanation. I mean, Eric, I've known him for years because he came from the blogosphere, basically. Like he used to write on a Flyers blog, I believe it was, and he was always one of these guys who had a knack for using analytics, but making it cromulent, making it explainable, expressing these ideas, but then allowing you as a reader to understand what it is he's talking about. And so that gift of explanation, I think at the end of the day is part of the art of negotiation. Like if you can lay out a case as to why your package is good for my team, more so than the other guy's package, and why I should want this guy versus the other guy, I think Eric is very gifted in being able to do that. I don't know what it ultimately means. There might be a bunch of people scared to trade with him because he's very smart and will make them look stupid. But it is a fascinating dynamic to talk about when somebody comes from a more untraditional background versus the usual pipeline of player to executive that we see in this league.
And there's the Dundon factor too. Owner Tom Dundon has not made it. It's not exactly a secret that he likes to win deals. Whether it's in how a contract gets played out and getting what they want. And I'm sure he also wants to win these trades in a particular way. So that factors in. So that's always been an interesting transition point with Tulsky. To your point, I do agree with you. It's one of those things where he's on the phone with a general manager and they're probably going, wait a minute, what's he seeing that I'm not seeing here?
Yeah. But I also think too, though, like the great thing about having an analytic mind running your team is that it decreases the amount of moves that are made based on vibes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that he doesn't have a gut reaction to certain things. He certainly will and certainly does. But, I feel like when you have someone like Eric Tolsky running your team, there's going to be a more cold, calculated assessment of where the team is and what it needs than there might be otherwise. And I think that's going to ultimately benefit the franchise. I'm
nothing but vibes, man. When I was at NC State, I made sure I did not take as many math classes as possible, especially after I got out of computer science.
I think vibes are important. I was just lamenting as a New York Mets fan the idea that Pete Alonso might not be back with the team next year, where they've done all these incredible things in the offseason, and then they're going to screw it all up by trading away one of the most beloved or allowing one of the most beloved players to sign elsewhere. And ruin the vibes.
I'm with you on that too. But speaking to Seth Jarvis, like you really would have ruined the vibes without that dude.
Absolutely.
I mean, I get the analytics. I get you want to do all the stuff on paper. There's the Svechnikov and slotting, all this stuff. But vibes, man, give the man his money.
Vibes are important. Vibes are crucial.
Greg Wyshynski, ESPN. Check out the podcast. Go to ESPN Plus as well, where you get to see things on the bubble and other hockey insights. Greg, we appreciate it, man.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Seriously, not a free game. Don't make me say it for more time. It's not funny anymore. Guys.
Always enjoy hanging out with Greg Wyshynski. We could have nerded out on more Star Wars stuff, but
how is the Puck Daddy a Mets Devils fan? I have never met such a person before.
Well, I think legally he is no longer referred to as Puck Daddy. I think that got left with Yahoo back in the day.
Sure.
But I know what you mean. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, you and I both know a guy who somehow grew up to be a Mets Giants fan.
Yeah, but Devils?
Yeah. I don't know. That's a good
Long
question.
Island and New Jersey? Like,
great question.
No, man.
Great question. We took a hockey break with Greg.
Let's take a break. Let's take a hockey break. Brought to you by Happy and Hill.
Hey man, it's cold outside. You're dragging. Maybe you're like me. You're hopped up on Sudafed, and you a little pick me up. Almond Brothers is the move. The smoothies are fantastic.
Download the app. Do yourself a favor, because starting February, we're gonna have a code for the Happy and Hell app to save you money. Make yourself feel good. Eat some delicious food. Have a great smoothie. Save some money.
Speaking of saving money, our friend Matt Davis over at State Farm can help you save money on home and auto. Contact him today, 919-779-8277. You can go to insuregarner.com or theoginsurance.com. And Matt's going to help you. Matt's going to make sure that your home and auto, you're saving some hundreds of dollars.
Matt is in for the Waste Management Garner Open on the 5th.
Very
at Sully,
excited
so I'm
about
excited to see him.
That'll be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that. From Steven, as we get out of here with some Hey Joe, the Joes are spicy today. Just Joe and I talking like we normally talk.
I'm contemplating life's bigger questions, people. For
Apparently you are.
You've got me in a mode to self-evaluate.
And as A. Scott Honeycutt points out on YouTube, greatest sex in my life. Time to move on. Bingo, Ovies. Look, man, when's the tournament going back to DC?
But why?
When's the tournament going back to DC?
That suggests that the greatest sex of your life is a one-off?
It could be.
Okay.
But hey, next time we're in DC, hit me up. You know? See if we can recreate that magic.
87, 24.
I'll see you in 37 years. Don't mind me. From Mindy, come on, take us behind the curtain. Are you going to share with us why we definitely are not having a pregame? I'm not nosy. I just want to know the details.
Got shut down. The FCC shut us down.
The reason why it got shut down is because we forgot tables. It's just that simple.
Your commitment to the radio bits are 2012. Joe Ovies would be very disappointed.
I understand, but we really wanted. Mindy wanted to be taken behind the curtain. The curtain is we were going to go out to breeze through, and we forgot important things to make it work. So we had to rush back to the studio to be on at 5 o'clock. That means we'll do it again at some point in the future. We'll do it.
That's fair.
I mean, because you and I were both prepared to be outside today.
Yeah.
We were ready to go, man. But hey,
my takes travel.
One more from Ken. A modest proposal by Joseph P. Giglio as it relates to all the coaching stuff. Well, you're already fired up and contemplating life, which means maybe it's not the right time to go to the sports phone.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports Phone and curse or don't.
Our Duke fan called back.
Hey, dumbass Joe, and I know you guys know who I'm addressing. This is your friend James Tremaine. First off, Cooper Flagg is more than a, quote, good, unquote, basketball player. And for the second thing, I was alive when Corey Maggette took off. I was alive when Dante Jones made the dunk at Virginia and did the push-ups. I remember the beast Dalton Brand was. I'm 52. I grew up in the program, so spare me your age bullshit. Now, let me tell you something. I do understand this much, and apparently you don't. The landscape of college basketball has changed quite a bit in 20 years, and a monster today is not necessarily what a monster was back then. The playing field is a whole lot more level. But I know you can't put your Duke-hating bias aside and start kissing the Wolfpack ass and slurping the Carolina fans. Just do us all a favor and stick to what you know. But I know this. It sure the fuck ain't Duke basketball. Go Duke!
So I wanted to play.
Okay, I don't have my glasses on. James. Is that your name?
Yeah,
James. Here you go, buddy. Here you go. I was alive when Cooper Flagg turned the ball over 3 times at the end of the Kentucky game. I was alive when Kansas's best player was not on the floor for the last 8 minutes of the game, but your super machine couldn't find a way to beat Kansas. So how about that, man? Have your own fucking standard. How about that? Okay? If you run through Kentucky, you run through Kansas, you want to tell me how fucking great your team is? That's awesome. That's awesome. You know what else I was alive for? I was alive for 2022 when Coach K lost his last game to Carolina. I was alive. I was even there in New Orleans when Coach K lost his last game in North Carolina in the Final Four. I was not there last year. I was in D.C. when they lost to NC State in the ACC tournament, and I was at the Rialto celebrating while Duke lost in the Final 8 to NC State. So, James, do me a favor, okay? Pay attention to your own fucking team and don't worry about my takes. How about that?
This is from Brent. Flagg is a beast, but he has good players around him. He doesn't have to score 25 a night. Y'all do realize they haven't lost since before Thanksgiving. Flag isn't flashy like Zion, so nobody takes him as seriously. Here's what I've come to the conclusion on. I've kind of developed this over the years when it comes to Duke. We might have our differences with how State fans see things. We might have our differences how Carolina fans see things. But it always cracks me up about Duke basketball fans in particular. This is coming from somebody who usually is on like the more positive side when it comes to Duke. Duke basketball fans kind of act like soccer fans from time to time. Like, you don't understand. You don't get the great game, do you? You don't see what I see. Nah, man, come on. We see exactly what it is. And the problem for Duke right now is I'm having a hard time judging Duke the rest of the way. As we illustrated earlier with the ACC and the 17s with double-digit losses and all that kind of stuff, right? They're not going to get challenged in the league. They're just not. They got some, I guess, difficult road games. What with Clemson? They're at Wake this weekend. Wake's probably feeling good about themselves after they beat Carolina. So something tells me also the last time they were there, John Shire's probably not sitting well. I hope John Shire's showing those guys. You see what they did to us last year? Don't let that happen, right? I don't think Cooper Fly is going to make the same kind of like, oh my goodness, what's happening that Kyle Filipowski did. But that's neither here nor there. So I just don't see where they're going to get necessarily challenged in the league. They do have a neutral site game against Illinois. Now, you could sit here and tell me that it doesn't matter. They're going to blow everybody out. They're never going to be in a close game from here on out. If that's the case, then congratulations. You are the monster. The only way it'll happen, though, is if they go out and they win it. Let's see what else we got here. From Clay, UNC is not a bubble team. They are lower than that. NCAA rarely takes a team with 12 or more losses. They would have to go 8-4 the rest of the regular season, then probably at least get to the ACC title game. Doubtful that will be done without an effective big man. And finally, from Kelly, when Giglio goes Mariah Carey level on the laugh, I am surprised the dogs in his neighborhood didn't start to bark. It's not a show unless Giglio breaks. Giglio is certainly broken today.
You're not going to call my program and tell me what I do and what I don't know. Sorry.
From Ashley, Giglio needs a shorty at a minimum. Maybe a Nature's Relief soda. Maybe that's the case.
One more week.
From RJP. Oh, that, you know what? It finally makes sense. I totally forgot. I totally forgot you were doing Dry January. This makes total freaking sense, man. For God's sake, have a fucking beer. Please.
No.
Dude, you're miserable. Now it all makes sense. No wonder you're like this today. Seriously, just go to the fridge and get a beer.
We don't even have a good one in there. We don't. I don't think. Oh, yeah, we do. I reloaded. No, I'm not drinking. No, I'm going to make it. I got one more week.
Come on, Joe.
Nope.
Look at it, man. It's right here.
Nope.
It's cold. It's cold. It's fresh.
Fresh.
I just opened it.
I actually had a dream,
dude. It's so
about
cold.
Drinking a beer.
It's so cold that like the little smoke came out, little evaporation. Come on, man.
Nope.
It's just a shorty. They don't count.
They
Joe.
don't count.
They don't count.
I'm good.
They don't count, dude.
I'm
You
good.
sure?
I'm good.
Okay.
Let's go, RJP. Let's go.
Like, yeah, as Ken points out, the bland's right there.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Nah. Good.
Anyway, that's gonna wrap it up for today's OG Live. What a show. We'll see you for an OG Mailbag tomorrow.